All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Comp 2452. The screen is like shaking and flickering. I don't know if you can see that, but forgive me. Yeah, like that. I'm gonna email IST after class to get them to come and fix the projector or something. I don't think it's my dongle. This is not plugged in with HDMI. Yeah, I'm gonna email them after class. So apologies for the flickering display in the classroom. That's gonna get really annoying. Give me a second here. Doing this all in the live stream too, so like they get to come along for the ride. Nope. No. No. Okay. All right. This seems to be better. Okay. All right. I hope this is better because that's really annoying. I hope you're all doing okay today. Pi Day is in 2 days. So if you celebrate Pi Day, make sure that you get a pie on Saturday so that you got something to have to celebrate that. And then I guess first and foremost, for this section, I did actually promise to ascend today. So we're going to exit the Gram Apocalypse here. Let me get some more cookies, I guess. And I'll buy some more upgrades. But we're going to ascend. We've been on this run for 64 days. This is another mini game. This is another mini game in Cookie Clicker where we're giving up everything. Like we're going to start from scratch again here. But now we get to like play this mini game where we get to buy things that are like, these are now going to be in some cases permanent upgrades. So like this one here is, this is the first heavenly upgrade. It unlocks the heavenly chip system. Your prestige level also gives you a permanent +1 CPS, +1% CPS per level. So we're at 316 prestige levels right now. So that means that when we start this game, we're going to have plus 316% cookies per second. And then we unlock a bunch of other things. We've got 315 chips to spend here. This one is plus 10% permanently. This one is getting, you get a bonus basically for people who are paying on Patreon to support the game. This one gets golden cookies more often. This one lets you buy a crumbly egg. This is the dragon path. You can get a dragon egg eventually, and you can have a dragon that you're like training. This game is deep. This game is really, really deep for what it looks like. Researches, and then there's one is like you get to start doing things like this has different upgrades that affect other kinds of upgrades. So let's do this one. We'll buy some different kinds of cookies here. We'll start the crumbly egg path. So this is the one where we're going to start to get the dragon. This one is letting us choose what kind of milk we want to have. You can have more exotic flavors of milk, but you have to have 1 million of these heavenly chips to be able to start doing that. Let's get some different kinds of cookie baskets that we can buy. We can start with 10 cursors instead of nothing now. Gosh, I don't know. That's probably enough. I've run out of heavenly chips that I can spend here. So we're going to reincarnate and go back. And now we immediately start with 10 cursors. And we're still only at 2.2 cookies per second. But like, we're doing pretty good here for just having started out from nothing again. So the afternoon class is going to see this, and they're going to be like, what? Where did everything go? But I did tell them that we were going to do this today. You can choose what kind of milk we want. So you can have orange, raspberry, chocolate, or plain. We'll have chocolate milk today. All right. I meant to show this to you on Tuesday's class, but I don't really know what happened. I didn't refresh my slides after I added this. Lisa Wise in the co-op office asked me to share this with you. There's going to be an info session for the next intake of the co-op program for ComSci students. This is happening on March 25th. I'm going to remind you again the week that that's happening. Lisa's promised to send me an email again to let me know, to remind me to remind you again. But if you're looking to apply for the co-op program, this is a good place to get some more information about that. There's a link there in the text, I guess, and I've also put this up on the course webpage, so you've seen this in a couple of different spots now. What I want to be able to do today with you is we're going to continue working on this idea of these design heuristics. So focusing again on assessing existing interfaces using heuristics that are informed by standard design principles. We're going to do two things today. One is I want to finish up with this idea of visibility. And as part of the thing that we're doing with visibility, I want you to be able to explain why one UI, one user interface, might be considered to be more usable than another user interface that both accomplish the same general task when you're considering this design heuristic of visibility specifically. So why does one UI being more visible cause it to be more usable than another UI that lets you accomplish that same task? After that, we're going to try to do some of the same kinds of exercises as we did last time, although I promise not to bore you to death with installing DOS this time. That's not something we're going to do. We'll spend a little bit more time looking at some different kinds of interfaces. But this time we're going to be looking at a new design heuristic here that's called feedback. And we're going to assess these user interfaces based on the way that they provide feedback to their users. There's two different ways that we'll assess this, and I'll give you more information about that when we get there. But we're thinking about things like giving me feedback when there's a long-running thing happening, like clicking a button and then showing me that something is happening in the background because this is going to take a while. But the other is giving me instant feedback or giving me feedback about things that I've done. So telling me more information about the state that I'm in right now or telling me more about what I've done wrong. And this is something that we saw in Comp 2450. So really quick reminder here. Visibility is the idea that when a person is using an application, they only know what they can do based on what they can see. That's really the goal with visibility, or the thing that we're trying to assess with visibility. I can only know that I can accomplish a task if I can see that I can accomplish this task. And that's by showing buttons on the page. That's by showing buttons on the page that kind of say, like, this is the task that you can do right now, and here's how you can do that task. The kinds of questions that we're thinking about here when we're assessing a user interface for its visibility are things like, if I'm looking at this screen right now, are all the possible actions that I could do on this screen visible, or are they easy to make visible? So are there actually buttons on the screen right now that show me all the different kinds of things that I can accomplish? Or is it straightforward for me to like click a plus button to show a menu that then has all the things that I can do on the screen right now if I don't want those to always be visible? So are they always visible for a current context or time, or are they very easy to make visible? The others are some actions for actions that are sometimes possible. So something that you can do when the conditions are right for that thing to happen. are those things visible but disabled in some way? And we can think about that in two ways. One is, if we click on it, does it show me an appropriate error to say, you can't actually do this right now? Or is it just actually disabled? So when we're thinking about graphical interfaces in our web browser, this is stuff like, is the button literally disabled? So like, I can't actually click on this thing. Is it grayed out so that I can't choose it? And then finally, for visibility here, what we've got is, given only the information on the screen that we have right now, do I know what state I'm in? So if this is some like multi-step process, do I have a clear idea of where I'm at right now? Do I have all the information that I need to continue making choices about what it is that I'm doing? Last class, we spent a lot of time in our terminals, actually. We installed MS-DOS. I hope that you all went home after that class and like proudly told your parents about how you installed MS-DOS today in class. And then maybe some of your parents looked at you like, what are you doing with your lives right now? Why are you installing MS-DOS? Both because, one, maybe they don't know what MS-DOS is, and two, because they know that it's so obsolete. But then we actually looked at some terminal applications. So we looked at Vim, NeoVim, and Nano. These are all text editors. You have varying levels of experience using these text editors, but they're all what I would consider these to be modern apps. They were created a long time ago, yes, but people still use these. They are actively developed. These are things that are still being used by modern folks. And each of these, as we saw, had varying levels of visibility. And based on your experience with the task of make this file that contains hello world and it has a certain name, in some cases, based on that visibility, you were able to accomplish that task or not. Today, I want to spend a little bit of time taking a look at something that is maybe a little bit more directly connected to the kinds of interfaces that we're thinking about in this course, which is a web interface. So we're going to take a look at ordering some pizza with Pizza Hotline. But I do want to ask you some questions about the stuff that we did last class. And so I'm going to pop over to Mentimeter here, and I'm going to give you a couple seconds to answer this question. I'll give you 30 more seconds to join and to answer. Okay. So for the record, before I reveal the answers, I think there are two correct answers to this question. I think that Gunther is the best princess, but I also think that the Lumpy Space Princess is the best princess. Oh, no. I mean, I'm glad that lots of you are picking Gunther here, I guess, but Lumpy Space Princess comes to my mind when I think about the solid software design principles, because the middle one, the L, is the Liskov substitution principle, which you might have talked about with John and Dan in Comp 2400. But it's always, the acronym is always LSP, the Liskov substitution principle. And so that always makes me think of the Lumpy Space Princess, because it's often also LSP. Yeah, these. If you know, you know. That's the end of this conversation, I guess. Yeah, okay, thank you for that. We saw 3 text editors last class. And so I want you to think about this in terms of visibility specifically. Of the 3 that we saw, which was the most usable when considering this idea of visibility? I'm going to give you 5 more seconds to respond. Okay. Okay, yeah, so like I super duper agree with you here. Nano was 100% the most visible UI. And as a result of that, it was also the most usable user interface. I definitely agree with you that NeoVim sits in the middle and that Vim sits on the bottom here for this. Visibility, yeah, it was the most visible UI. What specifically about this idea of visibility? So thinking about there's somebody in the room back there. I can see a head moving around behind the curtains in that room that has the projector in it. What specifically made Nano easier to use? Thinking about this idea of visibility, yes, but what specifically about visibility? What was more visible that made this a lot easier to use? There were clear instructions at all times. So on the screen, it showed up. And I've got a tiny screenshot here of what appears to be a part, what is a part of Nano. And it's got like symbols here that show this is Control X and this is Control V. Literally all the controls are visible from the start. Clear labels for actions and indicators of what line you're on. Okay, so it did show you as you're moving up and down. You were able to navigate through the app again, I think, based on the labels that you've got here. This is kind of the opposite. So when I'm asking the question, what made Nano specifically easier to use, this is a fair comment to make, but I'm asking more about Nano than Vim and NeoVim here. I agree with you that, yeah, the modal nature of them makes it harder to use, but visibility, when I'm asking about visibility of Vim or of Nano, I'd want to see that about Nano itself. We can see everything that we can do. It has what I can do at the bottom at all times. It has the most options. You could figure out what you can do based on what you saw. It tells you everything that you can do. I think that we're all kind of agreeing with this. As I scroll down here, everybody's basically saying the same things. The labels actually told us on the screen what to do. I'm going to go back to my slides here for a second, and I don't want to like dwell on this, but point one, are possible actions at any given time or context visible or easy to make visible? They were visible, and like they changed when we did the save options. When I hit Control O on my keyboard, the bottom view changed. It showed me like these are more options that you have for saving this file right now. But this is a highly visible UI. And as a result of that, and I asked you informally, like within 45 seconds, how many of you were able to accomplish that task? Many, many more people were able to have accomplished that task with Nano than they were with Vim. I'm going to go back here for a minute, and I think what this is going to tell me to do is to go order some pizza. So let's go and order some pizza. I meant to log in here before I got to class, but I forgot, so you're going to have to watch me log into this. I'm going to go to the Pizza Hotline website, and I'm going to have to start signing in here. I have no idea what my password is, so you're going to have to see me type in my password. And I'm going to go to yes, place my order here, and I'm going to go to delivery. It's not open yet, so we have to choose this other option. Sure, 1 p.m. This is kind of where I want us to start this exercise. So again, I want to remind you, we're thinking about visibility specifically here. And the main ideas that we have are, we only really know what we can do if we can see what we can do on the screen. That's the key idea here. I only know what I can do if I can see what I can do on the screen. The questions that I want to ask about this page are all the possible actions that I have for this context, are they visible? Can I see them, or are they easy to make visible? Are some actions that are sometimes possible visible in some way but disabled? And given just this information that's on the screen right now, do I know approximately where I'm at? So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to assume that we're going to order this 4XL party pack. Okay. We're on another screen. I'm going to go in the reverse order here now. Based on what you see on the screen, So even here, I haven't scrolled down yet. I will scroll down, but based on where we are right now and what you can see on the screen, do you approximately know where we are in terms of the ordering process? Okay. I am going to scroll down here. Are there any options that we can see on this screen as a result of scrolling down that might be sometimes possible but are currently disabled? And are all the actions that we could possibly do here, are they visible or easy to make visible? I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I'm going to say that, okay, so shout out some toppings for pizzas. We got to order 4, so like... Jalapenos, okay. They're 2 toppings. Come on, I need another topping. Chicken, okay. What kind? Grilled? Halal? Halal, okay. I'm going to go to next step. Based on what we can see on the screen right now, do we know where we are in the ordering process? Are there options that are sometimes possible but currently disabled? And are all the things that I can do on this screen clearly visible? All the things that I should reasonably be able to do clearly visible? I'm going to come back to this page again. I am going to come back to this page again. I want to be able to choose some other options here, like, I don't know, extra matzah, but I also want it to be light cheese. Okay, this is suddenly kind of weird. Why would I want extra mozzarella but light cheese? Okay. I might want to butter up the crust, I guess. I might want red chili flakes on the side. I want cheddar, feta. I also want to have vegan cheese, no matzah, and extra vegan cheese with no matzah. Okay. These are options that I might want to be able to do, but I don't know if they should be enabled anymore after I've selected mozzarella. I don't know if they should be enabled anymore after I've selected mozzarella here. I'm going to go back to my Mentimeter here. I don't actually want to go through with this order. I don't want this to show up on my doorstep later. So like this is about as far as I want to get at this point. Based on what we saw there, so we saw 2 different screens. 3. We saw 3 screens, but we saw 2 different screens. Based on this idea of visibility, were current actions that we had possible at any given time, were they visible on the screen or easy to make visible? Were actions that were sometimes possible, visible, but disabled in some way, or did they become disabled? And based on what we were able to see, like we didn't go all the way through the point of getting to an actual pizza being ordered, did we know approximately where we were in this ordering process? I welcome you to talk to your neighbor for a moment if you want to discuss this idea. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to reveal these in 5. Possible current actions are visible. I think I agree with you. Yeah, like in almost every case, everything we could do appeared on that screen. I had to scroll down, sure, I had to scroll down, but like that's mainly because I'm zoomed in pretty far for the purposes of showing this on our screen here. Actions that should be sometimes possible are visible but disabled. I'm going to kind of agree with what this is trending toward disagree and kind of uniformly distributed here. There were options that should be sometimes possible but weren't disabled. I think that those should have become disabled after we made certain selections, but they were always visible. They were always visible, but they weren't disabled. And the user always knows what state they're in based on what they can see on the screen. As far as we can see, and I will go back here And let's do this correctly. So what did we pick here? It was jalapeno and halal chicken. I'm gonna remove all these other options here. I'm gonna do what it actually is supposed to do. For the record, I really hate this. I really, really hate this, that you have to do it this way. Then you click next step. It does then like move the arrow down. It shows us like now we're ordering for pizza 2. Everything that I can see on the screen is showing me this is where you're at in the ordering process right now. So I want to give them some credit here that, yeah, once I do actually get to the point of having done this correctly, I do know what state I'm in right now. Okay, good. What actions are possible? Now, I'm asking you to like hypothesize about what kinds of things that you might do on a pizza selection ordering screen here. To be fair to you, when I'm asking you to do this for this course, I'm asking you about your own project. You will always know what's possible because you wrote the code that does this stuff. I'm asking you to hypothesize here. What kinds of things might you be able to do on this pizza hotline page that wasn't visible in any way, shape, or form? Again, you're welcome to talk to your neighbor if you want to here. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to show this in 5. Repeating pizza topping selection. I think so. I'm going to interpret like this means I want to put this on all the pizzas. I just want them all to be the same, I think. Yeah, I think that's fair. Setting the delivery address. That part happened when we first started the order. It showed what my delivery address was going to be just after I logged in, but I think that's fair. Canceling the order. This shows up a couple times. That's fair. Not buy the pizza. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the option here is just like close the window, I guess. Kind of in the same way that I'm saying log out for you can just be refresh the page. The same sort of thing can happen here. Type of dough, that actually seems reasonable to me. I don't actually know. I don't order enough Pizza Hotline pizza to know if you can select different kinds of dough at Pizza Hotline. If you call them, does anybody actually call pizza places anymore? If you call them, can you choose a dough type? You can? Okay, all right, I didn't know that. So yeah, then thank you for that. You should be able to choose this if we know that this is a possible option. Seeing the total price, yeah. So like, I can't see the total price anywhere on the screen right now, and that might be something that I want to see. It's not an action, but it is something that I might want to have about information about where we're at right now. Clear all sections, so like removing the selections that we've got. Yeah, I mean, I went through and like deselected everything when I was going to add the toppings to that. Save order state and return to it later 2 times of the same topping. Yeah, okay, so thank you for all that. When we were ordering this pizza, as far as we got in ordering this pizza, was there any case where we didn't know what state we were in? An acceptable answer here is none, or no. I'm going to show these in 5. State was always indicated. No, I guess. I don't think so. When you press next and everything resets. Okay, maybe. So like when I clicked on the next button, the first time I think when I didn't choose a topping, or when I selected toppings, but I didn't click that button to add the toppings, it didn't show that. After I click add toppings, we're still on the same pizza. Not if you look closely on the screen. Okay, yeah, I think I generally agree with you that like in most cases here or all cases, I had a very clear idea of where I was in this ordering process. Okay, go back to the slides, Franklin. I am going to come back to these in a moment, but what I want to move on to now is thinking about a different design heuristic. So feedback is the first one. The visibility is the first one we're thinking about. Feedback is another that we're going to think about. We've actually seen this before in Comp 2450. We just didn't give it a label when we talked about it in Comp 2450. The idea with feedback is that the person that's using your system or your software, they're going to be confident about the use of your software if they know that the system is actually doing something. If I don't know that it's doing something, I might try to unintentionally cancel something that's happening, or I might try to do it again. I might just try to make this thing happen again. The canonical example of this, I'm going to give you some questions just like I had with visibility, but the canonical example of this, how many of you have printers at home? Lots of you do, and I heard a heavy sigh as soon as I asked that question. How often do you print something? This maybe doesn't happen as often at home, but how often do you print something and then you wonder, is it going to show up what I printed? Does my PC actually say, I am actively printing this? Yeah, my printer in my basement is a network printer, so even worse. It's not actually physically attached to my laptop. I have no idea if it accepted the job or not. I have to actually go downstairs to find out. And so sometimes that means you hit Control P a couple times and you press enter, and now you've got 5 copies of that same document. That's the canonical example of this idea of feedback, is if you don't get feedback from the system to say that something's happening, you don't know that something's happening. You don't have any confidence that something's going to happen here. The questions that we want to think about when we're assessing a user interface using the heuristic of feedback are, if the system is doing something, does it give any indication that it's doing something? So long-running task, something is happening in the background. I've clicked a button. Am I seeing that something is happening? Is there any indication that something has actually happened, or if I just click the button and then nothing happens? These are the kinds of things that we're thinking about here. Another way to think about this is, while I'm using this system, if I'm providing input, is it giving me information to say this is the correct kind of input that I'm expecting? So 2 ways here. I click on a button. Is it showing me that something is happening? Progress is happening. Work is being done on my behalf. And as I'm typing something in, is it saying, hey, this is looking okay so far. This is what I'm expecting to see. At the end of this processing that's happening, does the system actually tell me that something happened? When I press Control P and then I say print on that dialog, do I ever eventually get a notification that says your document was printed successfully? I don't think we ever see that. I don't think that's actually a thing that has ever happened in the history of humanity. I don't know why. We've been printing for 50 years. You'd think that that's something we'd want to get back. But gosh, if the system actually did something as a result of you clicking on this, does it tell you that it did something? And when it does tell you that it's done something, and it then expects you to do more, does it tell you that? Or if it's done something and it's failed to do that thing because either you gave the wrong input or it wasn't able to, for some other kind of reason, not accomplish that task, is it able to communicate clearly what's gone wrong and how you can fix it? This is Comp 2450 again. Error messages should clearly state this is the problem and here's how you fix that problem. This is feedback. This is us now formalizing that idea with an actual name. This is feedback that we want to get from our systems here. I want to go through a few examples of this again. This is the same Mentimeter, so if you've got it open still, awesome. I do have physical copies of this document. I've posted this document on the course webpage alongside of today's lecture notes as a Word document if you want to edit an electronic copy. I'm just going to hand this to the first person here, and I'll ask you to pass it kind of back zigzaggy. If you want to have a physical copy to write on, please grab a copy of it. There's a limited number of printouts here. If it's worth anything, when I print stuff at the university now, I often just like bring a USB drive to the printer and plug it into the printer and then actually press buttons on the printer to do my printer because I know that it's going to happen. I know that it's actually going to happen. Just like last time, I do want to do some exercises here that are using our terminals, but the way that I'm going to set this up is that I'm going to use my terminal and I'm going to ask you to use your web browser so that we can kind of live compare these things to each other. The first thing that I want to take a look at, and this is one that I'm going to do by myself, is I want to take a look at Pizza Hotline. I want to take a look at the pizza ordering process. I'm going to go back to this tab. We're now thinking about feedback. So we've assessed visibility of this. And overall, this is a generally visible kind of application, I'd say. We've assessed the visibility of this. Now our question is to start thinking about the feedback that the system is giving to us. On this page, like the things that I can interact with, the buttons that I can press, these don't really cause actions to happen in the background. So when I'm choosing pepperoni here and mushrooms, when I'm choosing extra mozzarella, I don't see progress bars showing up. This is not the kind of feedback that I expect to get from this system at this point. It's not doing any processing in the background. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to click on Next Step. This seems like a logical thing to do here, and I intentionally made this mistake last time when we were doing this. I'm going to click on Next Step here. And we do get some feedback from this system. The feedback says, please add toppings. For plain cheese pizza, select the plain cheese pizza topping. All right. I will select the plain cheese pizza option, and then I will go Next Step. It's giving me feedback. It's the same feedback. It's telling me for plain cheese pizza, select the plain cheese pizza option. I welcome you to talk to your peer about this if you want. Is this system showing us that it's processing something when it's appropriate? Does the system show us the results of some output if it's appropriate? And the error messages that we saw, we did see an error message. Did they clearly state what the problem was and what the action was to solve the problem? Thank you. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to reveal these answers. So the first two, let's go somewhere in the middle. There's no real processing that's happening here. When I clicked on Next Step, I mean, my web browser kind of showed that something was happening, but we're not assessing the web browser here. We're really assessing Pizza Hotline itself. The system is showing us some result of an output. When I do click on this, it's showing me like something happened. It tried to do something, but the result of this output was now an error message. The error message that I encountered maybe didn't exactly clearly state what the problem was. It actually did clearly state what the problem was, but it didn't really clearly state what the action was to solve the problem, as far as I could see based on that, and based on the actions that I took when I tried to deal with this. And so my next question here for you is, again, I want to emphasize to you, When I'm asking you to do this on tests, when I'm asking you to do this for your own projects, I'm not asking you to do the design. I just want you to think about this now. I'm trying to like prompt you to go to the next step, but I'm not going to ask you to do this in practice. I welcome you to converse with your neighbor again. How would you change this? How would you change this so that it's going to give me better feedback about what has happened while we're going through this? I'm going to go back to the pizza hotline page here so that you can see what it's showing me right now so that you can think about this. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to a minute to think about this. All right, I'm going to go back to Mentimeter here. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds to submit something if you want to. Just tell them to call. I mean, I suppose that is a way to give better feedback here, but I don't think that's an appropriate kind of feedback to give. If I wanted to talk to a person, nobody wants to talk to people when they're ordering food anymore. If I wanted to talk to a person, I would have called them in the first place, and I'd never have this problem. Put it in an obvious place. I couldn't see it. Okay, that's actually fair. The system has provided feedback to us, but like now I'm kind of looking at the design of this application and the colors that it's using. Everything on the Pizza Hotline website is red. Everything is red. They've got like red backgrounds on white text. And when I actually see this error message, like it's difficult for me to discriminate between 4XL Party Pack here as a title of a thing and the error message that's showing up here. It's not necessarily obvious that this is an error message based on the color scheme that they've selected. This course is not about UI design, to be clear. This course is not going to be about like choosing colors and stuff, but I think this is a fair way to criticize the UI that we've got in front of us here. More appropriate error messages, and also not just saying error, so like, and not just red text. Give the error message on the page before it reloads. Okay, so that's fair so that it doesn't change the location of the page. So if I go down here and if I were to click on next step, if it showed me like some kind of dialogue that said like, hey, you should probably do this now. So it kind of focuses on that error itself. Put a check mark by the pizza orders you've completed. Okay, whoops. Add a pizza successfully added thing, add a message to show that the toppings have been added. Tell them to click on the add toppings button at the end. Yeah, that's the key thing I'm thinking about here. Like without doing a major overhaul of this application, the person who created this application, and I again want to emphasize, I really strongly want to emphasize that we're not criticizing the people here that are making this application. Like I don't want to criticize anybody. Somebody made this app. This was like a thing that they chose to do, but I don't want to criticize or judge this person for that. But minimally adding a message that says you should click on this add toppings button before you click on next step. Part of this then might go back to visibility. Part of this might go back to visibility to say things like, this button should be disabled until after I clicked this button. So I'm not actually able to proceed until I've clicked the button Add Toppings. This might be an action that should sometimes be possible, but not always. The context or the state of the application needs to change for me to be able to have that thing be enabled. So our feedback and visibility here are now kind of tied to each other. But this is the main thing that I would want to do, is just change the message to say, you got to click on that Add Toppings button. And then maybe highlight it, like maybe indicate somehow that this is where the Add Toppings button is. But that's the main thing that I'd want to say here for this. here's the next thing that I want us to do. At the risk of destroying the Wi-Fi in this room, I'm going to ask you, if you want to start downloading a file. This is not a virus, I promise. It's not a virus or something. What I want you to download is the Ubuntu installer. So this is a Linux distribution, and I'm going to ask you to do this using your web browser, so Chrome or Firefox or Safari. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it on the command line. So I'm going to use a terminal tool. I'm going to use wget to do this. So I'm going to open this link in a new tab. I'm going to choose Download Ubuntu Desktop. I'm going to click the download button here. And I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to right-click on this and copy this link location. There it is, copy link. I'm going to go to my terminal here, and I'm going to say wget. I'm going to press enter. Take a look at what's happening here. I'm confident that you can see what's happening on your own screens. I welcome you to cancel the download. You don't need to finish the download if you don't want to. I encourage you to install Ubuntu on your machines, but like maybe after the term's over. Don't destroy your work for now. I welcome you to take a look at what's on my screen right now. I'm going to hit Control-C because I don't want to actually download this whole file. But I am going to go back to my slides here, and I'm going to go back to Mentimeter, and I'm going to start asking you the same question here. So you can kind of treat Chrome and Firefox as whichever one you happen to be using. If you're using Safari, I'm going to tell you to stop using Safari. I'm going to tell you to just pick Chrome or Firefox, so whichever one you think is appropriate. And I want you to ask this question, answer this question, which showed the clearest feedback? So you saw at least two different ways that this feedback was being provided to you. Which one showed the clearest feedback based on what you saw? I'm going to give you 5 more seconds, but you're welcome to talk to your neighbor if you want to. Okay, I'm going to show it in 5. All right, okay, it's actually fairly evenly distributed here, but not to my surprise at all, because I kind of expected this to be the outcome. wget is the one that has the most visibility. Or the most feedback, I'm sorry. It has the clearest feedback. I'm going to ask you the question, like, and I don't have a slide for this, but I do want to get some feedback from you. So verbally, I'll ask you the question, and you can answer verbally if you want to. What was more clear about this feedback? Like, why did this provide more or better feedback to you as a person that's downloading a file? Yeah.
The first thing that I think of comparing using wget in the command line just physically takes up more of the screen.
Okay.
Firefox and Chrome kind of shovels it off with that little tab at the right corner.
Yeah.
Here it's taking up the entire screen.
When we did click on this, or when it started downloading, like it did pop up and it showed something, but as soon as I click away from that, it's actually really hard to see. You can see it still, but it's really, really hard to see. I'm going to stop the download again.
I think it's easy to make it visible. Like you can then click show all downloads, which will sit in full screen, and then it shows all the information that you need to download.
So if I click on show all downloads here, I can see, yeah, it's pretty clearly visible for me to be able to see what's actually happening right now. Yeah, okay. Any other comments that you want to give about the feedback provided by these two different downloads tools? Yeah.
Since you cancel all the downloads, you don't know if it can provide like a notification for what it's done.
That's
The browser does pop up again. Does that you can't say anything when it's finished.
That's a fair question. So let's go and see. Does the browser show like a little pop-up to say that it's done? I'm trying to think about a download I could do that would be small enough that's not going to take the rest of the class to do. Edge. But why? I guess I could download Chrome or something. Joke's on you, there is a Linux. Okay, so if I click away from this to hide it, in Firefox, it shows a tiny check mark that says that it's done. I'm not sure what Chrome says. If I copy the download link and I wget it here, it's pretty obvious that it's finished, I guess, but this is kind of the nature of the command line as opposed to the web browser being a thing where you can do multiple things. So I think in both cases, there's some feedback that's being provided that the task is finished. There's some output. Here it's telling us what the file name was that it saved. We can pretend that it saved it with the correct file name in the same way that the web browser did, but it's showing us that this has happened. Okay. The next thing that I want us to do then is I want us to use Git to clone a repository. Many of you have done this, I know, because I see Git showing up in the submissions you're making, and I see Git showing up on your screen. But in a lot of cases, what you're cloning is something that's pretty small. And so I'm going to pop over here. I'm not going to ask you a question about this on Mentimeter, but I am going to try to do this git clone operation. Whoops, I better remove this. I'm going to ask you several times here about feedback that's being provided. I'm going to do rm-r Linux. So Linux is a folder, because I did this before I came to class. Linux is a folder. If I do rm-r, it's asking me questions suddenly. I don't want to answer these questions, so I'm going to press Control-C, and I'm going to put an F there. It finished eventually. The only way that I can see that it finished is that my prompt came back, but there was no progress. It didn't say, like, deleting file X of whatever. I know for a fact that if I did this with the user interface, the graphical user interface, so if you're using Windows Explorer or Mac OS Finder, it's going to show you progress about how much has moved to the trash as you're like dragging that or pressing the delete key on this. I'm going to do git clone again here, though. And this is going to be, I want you to show me like a show of 3 fingers here about the feedback that's being provided by Git. So the first thing we're thinking about here is, if the system is doing something, is it showing us feedback that something is happening? So 3 is, yeah, it's absolutely showing us feedback. 1 is, no, it's not showing us anything. Okay. If we're providing inputs, we're not providing input right now, so there's no like positive feedback for it to give to us to say that we're doing something. If the system has done something, this is going to take way too long. I'm not going to sit here. This is just as bad as watching DOS install. We're not going to actually finish cloning this repository, but the outcome is the same. We'll see that this thing has completed because we get this prompt back on our system. And if an error message happened, if there's an error, did something get printed out to give us feedback that there was an error? Was this a good error message? I know what all of those words mean. I don't know what they mean stitched together into a single sentence, though. Like genuinely, I don't know what it all means stitched together in a single sentence. I know that it's because I pressed Control C on my keyboard and I made it stop, but I don't know what that all means. Part of what I'm trying to accomplish here is that our interfaces, even when they are in a terminal, and kind of back to visibility with Nano, like even though they're in a terminal, this is an archaic feeling tool, they can be good user interfaces. They can still be good user interfaces. Git is a pretty technical tool, but it's giving us some kind of feedback that's appropriate for what we're doing. There's two more things that I want to do. The first is I want to set a date in D2L. So I'm going to pop open umlearn. I'm going to pop open umlearn here. I'm going to go to our course. I'm going to go to course admin. I'm going to go to course offering information. This is a page that you've never seen before in umlearn. This is a page that lets me do stupid things like put a polar bear with its mouth open as the banner for the page. This lets me change the course offering name from what you might see in other courses as like comp whatever, A01, A02, A03, some random numbers stitched together, and then the long title of the course, and then XL, something like that. So like something that looks like this is what you might see in other courses in umlearn. It also lets me do things like set start and end dates for my course. So I could change the start date for this course to be tomorrow, and you would all not have access to this course anymore. I'm not going to do that, but it's a thing that I can do. I can change the end date of this course to be tomorrow, and suddenly none of you will have access to this course after tomorrow. I'm not going to do that, but it's a thing that we are able to do in D2L. I'm going to click in this to try to set this date, and it does show me this dialog box. This is not for technical completeness. This is not the date selection. It's not input type equals date. It's not that kind of a date selector. This is a custom thing that D2L has built for us to choose dates. As a result of that, I am able to just type in random text here. If you're working with the actual date selector, I don't believe you can just type in random text. This is going to allow me to type in random text. I'm going to click away from this, and I see some output here. I'm going to give you a moment to read this. I'll read it aloud to you in case it's hard to see from the back. This line here, it says date reverted to previous value. Use date format, M/D/YYYY. I'm going to go back to our Mentimeter slides, and I'm asking you a pretty similar question. It has given us some feedback about the data that we provided to us. What specifically about this error message is clear? I'm going to go back to this so that you can see it. I welcome you to talk to your neighbor if you want. What specifically about this error message makes it clear? I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Okay, 5 more. It tells us what the problem is and how to fix it. Okay, yeah. It tells us what format to use. I like that. It states the format and states that it was reverted. Explained what happened and how to fix it. It tells me that I didn't use the proper format. That the input was reverted. So that is the outcome. Yes, thank you for identifying that. This is the effective result of that operation. I tried to do something, but no, I'm rejecting your input. I'm going to change it back to what it was. And it's going to tell us what we need to get done. It pops up. So this is a good way to go back to our pizza hotline option. Like it maybe should have popped up. Here it was much clearer that something had happened with the value that we provided here. It gives a clear solution to the problem. It shows acceptable inputs, exactly the format that it's expecting. It shows the exact format and high contrast. So high contrast, fair enough. But the thing I'm thinking about here is about the fact that it showed us what it did, and it's telling us how we can fix what we need to be able to accomplish there. Okay, so that's awesome. Thank you for that. And I've got one last example here that I want to show you today, and that is to enter a credit card number. I'm going to open this up. This is a link to a Git repository that's got some code in it that is kind of responsible for taking input for things like credit card numbers. And they've got a live demo here that I'm going to open up. I'll make this bigger for us so that we can see it. And I'm going to start typing in credit card number. And then, oh, I'm trying to press letters on my keyboard, but I can't. Yeah, that's probably right. We'll look at this for a moment. I'm going to enter a different credit card because that one's probably maxed out as of this moment. Within seconds of after typing it here. Okay. Okay, all right. I mistyped. This should be 26. Okay. I'm going to type in another one. This one is now probably also maxed out after having typed it in. It was all for show. I wasn't actually typing in my credit card numbers. I know you're all laughing at, yes, haha. Okay. What part of this gave the most feedback? Again, you're welcome to talk to each other here if you want. I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds. Okay, 5 more. All right. So the questions that we have are, if the system is doing something, does it inform the user that it's processing something? As we were typing stuff in here, there's no processing happening. Like I'm actively providing input to this system right now, so it doesn't really need to show me a progress bar. Does the system tell me that I'm providing correct user input? And I'm going to say that while I was typing stuff in here, it was giving me some feedback that indicated that the values that I was typing in were correct in some way. If I go back to this entry field here, and if I start all over again, it's showing me like this kind of vague, anonymous looking card-shaped thing to start. Credit card manufacturer, credit card companies, when they're issuing numbers for cards, they follow a certain pattern, and Visa cards always or often start with 42. This is often the number. So if you've got a Visa in your pocket and you look at it, it probably starts with the number 42. If you have, does anybody have a MasterCard? can you tell me what the first 16 digits are, and then flip it over. Tell me what the first 2 digits are. That's what I'm asking for. Just the first 2 digits of the actual card number. So like that 16-digit number.
51.
51. Okay. And it shows us that it's MasterCard. And then the remaining 14 digits are, the joke is going to die fast hard. Yeah, okay. So we're typing something in here, and it's giving us feedback immediately. Like, I know I'm typing in a Visa. I know I'm typing in a MasterCard. I can see that actually showing up on the screen right now. If the system did something, system isn't doing anything. There's no buttons for me to click here. Even if I press enter on this page, nothing's going to happen. This is just like it's a demo that it's working with here. But if it did something, and it is kind of doing something in that I've selected away from this thing, and it's starting to show me messages here. If I select away from this thing, and when I type in invalid dates like this, it's giving me some feedback. Is the error message clear? What went wrong? The error message, I think, is clear here. This is an invalid date. Based on the calendar date today, it's March 11th, 2026, and I've entered June 25 here. This is a date that's in the past. You can't have an expiry date that's in the past for a credit card. Does it tell us how to fix it? Not really. At least in this case, it's not telling us how to do this. It's saying that this is an invalid date, but it doesn't say why it's an invalid date. And so I agree with your selection here. Showing the type of card is giving us basically immediate feedback that it's going to, this is kind of like correct types of input that I'm providing here. This option here, preventing me from typing anything other than numbers in the first place, that's a fair thing to identify. Like, that is something that's happening here, but it's not really feedback that it's giving me. It's not telling me that it's rejecting numbers. It's just not letting me type them in the first place. So to me, the thing that's giving the most feedback from this system is that it's showing the type of card that we have here. All right. In like a record first, we're not like running after the end of class, and I'm continuing to talk to you. This is where I want to stop today. But at this point, what you really ought to be able to do is you should continue to be able to assess using 2 heuristics now, interfaces that are provided to you. You should be able to assess interfaces for their visibility, and you should be able to explain to me minimally why one interface being more visible than another makes it more usable. And at this point, you should be able to start doing assessment of the kinds of feedback that can be provided by a system. So based on user input, based on what the system is doing right now, what kinds of feedback should it provide? What kinds of feedback does this system provide? That's it for today. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.